some of the important properties that are very useful in order to understand the chemical bonding and also chemical reactions. Ionization energy, ionization energy, okay, then electron affinity, electronegativity, and we will be discussing each one of them again with the revised understanding of atomic model. So we'll start with the first parameter, and that is ionization energy. It is also referred to as ionization enthalpy. It is also sometimes referred to as ionization potential, abbreviated as IE or IP from ionization potential. State it something like that. Let me state it first. The amount of energy which is required to remove an electron. We are talking about one electron. To remove an electron from an isolated, these terms are important, okay, isolated gaseous atom of an element. Okay, this is the thing. So isolated word is important, because when you have, say for example, if you remove an electron from metal, think about that, each atom also influences other atom. Or if you talk about liquid, even there you can remove the electron, but thing is that each atom will influence each other's energy and other thing. So you need to isolate a system first. That means you have to isolate a single atom, and naturally you're talking about the gaseous system then, right? So in that gaseous atom, from that gaseous atom, suppose this is the nucleus, you may have more of these orbitals here, okay, I'm not drawing all of them, but if you have to remove only, this is a neutral atom. The thing is that when we say atom, you must understand we are talking about the neutral atom. If it is not neutral, we refer to as ions, right? So what is the amount of energy that will be required to remove an electron? And naturally it must be from the outermost shell, right? The electron from the outermost shell. So how much energy is required? And that is what is referred to as ionization energy. So then the question may arise, why we are looking at all these parameters? I said just now that these parameters are very important parameters. They help us to understand many things about the chemical bonding. Number one, okay, you understand chemical bonding, about chemical reactivity, mainly these things and many more things are characterized in terms of these parameters. Okay, there are many things which you can understand and discuss only if you know these parameters about individual elements. Okay, so that is the significance of them. So it is very important that we look at these and try to understand what are the factors or structural factor of an atom that will determine the value of ionization energy for that particular atom. Okay, so in fact there are factors which really influence the ionization energy of an atom, and we need to look at that. Definition wise, it is as simple as that. So here today we will explore that what are the factors, basically the structural factor of an atom, okay, that affect the ionization energy, okay, for an atom or for an element. Well, before going further, I would like to also point out here that usually you have the element, when we say ionization energy, if it is said only, we only understand that we are talking about only the first electron that is being removed. For example, when I say ionization energy associated with sodium atom, so you are talking about the energy that is needed to be input, because you have to supply the energy to knock off the electron. So let's say I say this is the energy, or symbol I can use IE. IE. Some amount of energy that you're supplying to single gaseous sodium atom to create sodium ion in the gaseous form itself, and an electron is removed. Okay, so this is the situation that we are talking about, and here is ionization energy. Naturally, for element like sodium, you have to remove you can only remove one electron easily, right? That's why, and we are not concerned about the inner electron, we are talking about only the outermost electron, because we are only talking about the reactivity associated with chemical reaction, which will be mainly based on outermost electron. Okay, so similarly, but when you talk about the element like aluminium, okay, you have magnesium also, you can remove up to 2 electron. But let me take the example like aluminium. When you have aluminium, and you know in the valence shell you have 3 electrons, so aluminium's atom in gaseous state when taken, and let's say you supply the energy to remove the first electron, then it becomes like aluminium plus 1 gas plus 1 electron. Now this is the amount of energy which is only required to remove 1 electron. Okay, so let me call this as IE1. But then you know aluminium will it can actually it will be stabilized better when you reaches with the valency of 3. That means you can sequentially remove 2 more electron so that an octet kind of electronic configuration around the aluminium can be achieved. So then aluminium plus 1, from aluminium plus 1, which is the gas, you have to supply more energy to remove the second electron, and let me call how much energy you have to supply, IE2. So I am referring to IE1 and IE2, okay, to discriminate between the removal of first electron and second electron. So now you have 2 plus and then 1 more electron removed. Similarly, you can talk about the removal of 1 more electron from 2 plus valency aluminium by supplying the energy IE3 to form the ion aluminium 3 plus in the gaseous state again, and then 1 more electron here. So please see here, now the question may arise, one may ask the question, are these all IEs should be same? What do you think? Yes, on the next electron will be different, that is correct, no doubt. Okay, think about this aluminium for example. Okay, let's just say here you have aluminium atom, okay, and there is a nucleus here, this is aluminium, and let me say that it has 1s, 2s and 3s and 3p here. This is the third shell in which you will have 3 electrons. Okay, there will be 1 electron, 2nd electron, 3rd electron. Okay, that you can always think that each electron here, there are inner electrons here, right? Inner electrons here, all these electrons, they shield each other, okay, from the effect of nucleus. So although I have written here electron as if they are in the same with the parallel, no, it's not. The waves are shielding each other. Okay? You remove the first electron, that must be the outermost, then the second electron has to be little bit closer to the nucleus, third electron which you are removing should be even closer to the nucleus than the second one. So your ionization energy, basically first ionization energy should be less than the second one, and second one should be less than the PP1 kind of electronic configuration. So you are saying that it is easier to understand, okay, P electron is gone, the other two were like inner, more of closer to the nucleus. But then among the two, how do you discriminate? That's the question you are asking, right? So here is the story. See, whenever we say the 2 electron, think about that, they are packed in the same room. They my suggestion is that don't try to think them as particle, as if one particle is shielded from another particle. They are like waves actually moving across each other also. Okay, so when the waves are moving across, they are actually protecting each other also from the shielding by shielding effect. Although they may be exactly of the similar energy, but at least they are of opposite spin. So when the opposite spin are there, definitely they are moving in opposite direction, but they are still moving across each other. Think about that, because they are sharing the same space, the 3s. When they are sharing the same space, 2 waves, they must be moving across each other. And if they are moving across each other, definitely they must be protecting each other a little bit from the influence of nucleus, right? So if one of them is gone, then what do you think will happen? The next one is less protected. It's like that. Okay, make sense? So basically all I'm trying to say here is, when we say ionization energy, very casually you must understand we are only talking about the first ionization energy. This is your first ionization energy. But then specifically if you have to discuss the phenomena associated with the second electron removal, you talk about the second ionization energy, third ionization energy, and so forth. Okay, so let's look at the factor which will typically influence the value of ionization energy. Nucleus has its own charge. Let's call it as Qn. And now let's talk about the charge only associated with the outermost electron that we have to remove. For example, I'm talking about the, let's say, the removal of first electron here, and let's say the charge associated with this is QE, right? Charge on an electron is same, fixed, right? So electron on one charge, and this is the charge on entire nucleus. Whatever number of proton that you have, they included, so total charge of the nucleus. You remember that I used to say that the force of attraction between the two is decided by Coulomb's law. So the charge of nucleus, because electron's charge is always fixed, right? So if you are talking about always the outermost electron in any atom, the charge of nucleus is fixed, then ultimately the force of attraction between the nucleus of an element and the electron depends upon the nuclear charge, right? So nuclear charge is one important factor. Okay, so for example, I said that this force will be directly, force of attraction will be directly proportional to Qn and Qe. This Coulomb law you will study in physics. I am just trying to relate here. You don't have to know this formula, but I am trying to tell you the force of attraction depends upon this. So naturally, more the nuclear charge, please see, more the nuclear charge, more will be the attraction, and hence more the charge, more Qn, higher value will be for first ionization energy. Higher will be the ionization energy, because you will require more energy to remove the electron. Second factor, which is related to the structure factor, in fact that is also related to this, but the structure factor means the size of an atom, and we know that the force of attraction also depends upon the distance, and it is inversely proportional. So F is inversely proportional to square of the distance between the nucleus and the electron, last electron that you are removing. So you see that more the distance, less the attraction, more the value of R, lesser the attraction of the nucleus and electron, nucleus of an electron, outermost electron, and hence lesser will be the ionization energy or ionization potential. But as I said that these factors don't play their role independently. So one factor is increasing the attraction, but the other the other factor, which is the distance, is reducing. So if you go down a periodic table, it should be the play of combination of the two factors. So ultimately which will win, that will decide the direction of the value for the ionization energy. Okay, so but right now we are discussing each factor independently. Then whatever effect that we are going to see on the value of ionization energy of the last electron in an atom, it will be the play of all the overall effect together. Okay, so these are the two important things. The third important effect, the factor is it's actually the one which I have just talked about, the shielding effect. Shielding effect, or it is sometimes also referred to as screening effect. Screening effect. What it says is that if you go more and more away, your last electron, suppose, is shielded more and more by inner electron, then that is only possible when you have higher and higher atomic number, right? So you have more and more shells being added. So more and more shielding will reduce the value of ionization energy. So higher the shielding of outermost electron from the nucleus, right? We are talking about the shielding of the electron from the nuclear charge, from the nuclear charge. What is causing the shielding? The inner electron or any electronic arrangement which is in between. You can think about that. Nuclear charge. And that will make it little bit easy for to be removed, and therefore lesser will be the ionization energy. Okay, this is clear. Now thing is that here is a little bit catch that we have to shape with respect to our model also. Suppose if you have to talk about the shielding of an electron which is in the outermost orbital. Okay, suppose just like I think case I was discussing here, 3s2 and 3p1. There are two type of orbital in the same shell here. Sorry, the s orbital, they will cause more shielding effect, or the electron in the s orbital will cause more shielding effect than the electron in the p orbital, then the electron in the d orbital, and then the electron in the f orbital. So the shielding effect, see, the electron may be in the same outermost shell, but if the electron is in the s orbital, the same electron if it goes in the p orbital, the shielding effect will be less, but the electron is in the s orbital, the shielding effect is more. The reason is, you can think of electron in the s orbital is more symmetrically more symmetric and then more closer to the nucleus, right? But if you look at the p orbital, the very shape tells you, you might have seen that they are more diffused around the nucleus in certain directions, right? So more systematic shielding is created by s orbital. If the electron is in the s orbital, it will cause a better shielding compared to if the electron is in the p or the d or the f orbital. So it follows this sequence. So the shielding effect for various orbitals nature itself is important. So if it increases in this direction, okay, so you can very easily relate. These are factors that we are going to invoke to explain certain things little later. So I talked about shielding effect, not very difficult, but now I am adding one more thing, saying that shielding effect also depends upon in which orbital the electron is. If the same electron is in the s orbital, it will cause more shielding versus if the same electron is in the p orbital. Okay, that's what it means right now. Then another important factor, and that is also related to the nature of orbital, and it's called penetrating effect. What it means is, again here considering the nature of the orbital, please see, as I said that the s orbitals are more spherically surrounded around the nucleus compared to the p orbital. Penetrating effect of the orbital, Which orbital you think are more deeply penetrated to the nucleus if you consider for the same principal quantum number? You know that s orbital is most symmetric and spherical and more closer to the nucleus versus the p orbital, which is like distributed across the nucleus in two different zones, and then it is not everywhere equally around the nucleus, right? So, and it moves away from the nucleus. P orbital, if you remember the structure of p orbital, it moves away from the nucleus. If this is the nucleus, it moves away from the nucleus. So your electron density is more everywhere outer zone, but in s orbital, if you remember, it was most electron density was around the nucleus. So if you compare these two scenarios, you will find that this orbital is more closer to the nucleus compared to this if the electron is in this orbital, because it is flanking out, all these kind of things are happening. And if you consider the d orbital, which is flanking out even in more zone, the same electron, if it goes in the d orbital, it flanks out in more zone, so its penetrating effect even reduces. So you can say that penetrating effect means, I am saying, more closeness to the nucleus. So if you have to talk about for the same principal quantum number, for the same n value, the penetrating effect of s is always higher than p orbital, then d orbital, and then f orbital. So I should say that penetrating effect increases if you go in this direction. Okay, for the same principle, we are not comparing between, let's say, we are only talking about, let's say if I have to talk about 3, for example I am writing here 3s's penetrating effect is higher than 3p orbitals, then 3d's, then 3f's. I'm not comparing 3s of 2p and this and that. No, comparison is not allowed, because then you're talking about completely different spaces, right? So you have to talk about this for the same principal quantum number. Here also for the same principal quantum number, the screening effect, this must be considered for the same principal quantum number when you're talking about. Okay, ability of electronic configuration. Remember, I was saying again and again that either a completely half filled orbital, P3 or D5, these are half filled orbitals, right? Or P6 or D10, these are like fully filled orbitals. These electronic configuration are generally most stable among all the other p and d electronic configuration, right? If you have to fill the electron in the same orbital by adding a 1 1 1 like that, these are most stable electronic configurations. So if you have to remove the electron from these orbital versus, for example, if you have to remove the electron from a p2 orbit, p2 electronic configuration versus the electron from p3, it will be easier to remove from this compared to this one, because this is most stable electronic configuration. Similarly, from P6 you cannot easily remove compared to the P2 or some other electronic configuration. So this is an extra stability which is provided because of this, and this also results from your quantum mechanics. So you have to consider all these aspects when you have to discuss. So let me tell you now, summing up very quickly, your ionization energy, let's say first ionization energy itself for any elemental atom, it is a ploy of all these factors playing together. So these are general train. So nucleus, and then you have these orbitals. If you go down, your nuclear size will definitely increase, but at the same time your more and more outer shell will increase. Okay, so always remember, whenever we say ionization potential, it is something related to the attraction between the nucleus and the outermost electron, because ionization potential talks about the energy that you have to supply to knock off this last electron. So in this case the last electron is closer, number one, but in this case the last electron is farther and farther away. Of course the nuclear charge is increasing, but because it is away, and also it is being shielded by more and more inner electron. So all the factor, if you consider, it is the shielding effect that dominates, and that's why the ionization potential decreases. But if you go from here to here, you see that nucleus is still the same size and the last orbital is still the same, and your number of electron may have increased. Okay, in here I'm not showing them, but at the same time the distance has shrinked, and that means your ionization potential should have increased, because the attraction between them is so powerful more and more, because the nucleus and this one has changed, n1 has changed, and number of electron has changed. So this here screening effect is not that much. Here screening effect is much more dominating. So these are the factors that we have to consider. These are the general trend. If you go down a period, it decreases, group or decreases. If you go across a period, then it is increasing. I hope this is clear. This is something that we have discussed. Of course, there are various factors that will come in, shielding, if I told just now, and also within the shielding effect also, now you have to consider what will be the effect if your electron is actually occupying already s orbital versus p orbital versus d orbital. Then from which orbital the shielding effect will be more? Generally the electron which are occupying s orbital, they will cause more shielding effect. So the electron inner electron which are occupying more of s orbital, they will cause more shielding effect than the p orbital, than the d orbital. This is one thing. I said about also the penetrating effect, how deep the orbital can be, or deep means how close it can be to the nucleus. Okay, that's what it means. So we know that s orbital is more closer than the p orbital, than the d orbital. So this is called penetrating effect. And for any given principal quantum number, for example 3, for n is equal to, for example n is equal to 3, for suppose, if you consider all the orbital, and if you consider same an electron in this orbital versus this versus this versus this, you will find that the electron which is in the s orbital, which is, that will be more strongly attached to the nucleus. So if you have to remove, देखो all these orbital are in the same shell, so the energy will be more or less similar, but there is a little difference. Electron in the s orbital will be more tightly bound to the nucleus than the electron in the p, then the electron in d, and then the electron in f in the same shell. So you have to consider this effect to explain this one. Okay, if the electron has to be removed from the p orbital versus the s orbital, it will be easier for it to be removed from the p versus then in the s. Then there is another important factor which we have discussed very extensively, and it is also related to the electronic configuration. We know that these orbital which are either partially filled like this, or even you can say f orbital if you have to consider f7, and maximum capacity of f orbital are 14 because there are 7 of them. Just like there are 3 p orbital, there are 5 d orbital, there are 7 f orbital. So either they are half filled symmetrically, half filled means symmetrically half filled, है ना? They are half filled but symmetrically means each orbital has got one electron, or completely fully or completely filled. Naturally they will be symmetric because all the orbitals are occupied. Of course, when you are considering them to be completely filled, you are considering both the spins, opposite and up and down, because all the orbital will have 2 electron, and the 2 electron will have opposite spin in them, while here you have all the electron with one spin, and mostly we just for the sake of convenience we consider the up spin so that it is easier as a reference. Okay, it doesn't matter, there is no distinction between up and down until you have to compare. Until you have to make a comparison, it doesn't matter whether you call it as up spin or down spin. Okay, so please see, there is an idea of symmetry in either of these two cases. There is an idea of symmetric filling of orbitals. Okay, and these are really symmetric among all other configuration. For example, if you consider the p orbital filling, you can consider them for p orbital, you can start considering from p1 up to p6, right? All these are possible filling depending upon how many electrons you have. Similarly for d, you can consider from d1 to d10, right? The maximum number of electron and minimum number of electron, and all of them will be possible depending upon how many electron you have. But if you have only 3 electron, then it will be this. If you have 6 electron, then it will be this one. For p orbital, for d orbital, d5 and d, these are the most symmetric among all other possible for d and p orbital. Okay, so these are most symmetric. Symmetric filling is always encouraged for better stability. More symmetric filling and then better stability of that electronic configuration. So if it is more stable, that means that electronic configuration will be like the that the atomic structure would like to acquire if possible. Okay, when possibility means if it has that many number of electron to be filled. Okay, so this is what we are talking right now, and we are talking about, let's say, ionization potential. So I said that all these factors will play together to decide on what is going to happen to the ionization potential or ionization energy. How much energy you will require to remove an electron, that's the thing. That means you are supplying the energy. Please keep it in mind, when we are saying ionization energy, we are supplying the energy to already stable electronic configuration to remove an electron. Okay, a sodium atom is a stable atom, let's say. Okay, if I say that sodium atom Na, so it has got 2 electrons, 8 electrons and 1 electron here in the outermost shell. So you have, this is a stable electronic configuration for the atom, it is neutral. But if you have to remove an electron, which will be the last one, then you have to give some energy. Energy has to be supplied, and when you supply energy, this electron will be removed from this. Okay, so I'm saying that this is just one example. The question is how easier it is to remove the electron, and that will determine the value of ionization potential. So as I said that in case of metals, this is what happens. We just said this. Okay, and when you have to remove the electron from the element which are across the period, okay, when you go from here to here, more and more energy is needed, simply because the attractive power is increasing and the electrons are occupying more and more uh, new and new orbital, sorry, the same orbital, but more and more electrons are acquiring. So it is difficult to remove the electron because the attractive power is increasing. Okay, that's the whole thing I'm talking about. And in consider that all these factors are going to play a role simultaneously. Okay, not just one but all of them. So this is a general trend. Okay, now if you consider the general trend, what do you say about, for example, let me discuss the answer here itself. When you consider the general trend, if I have to plot a graph, for example, of ionization potential showing the general trend, if you have to plot the graph of ionization energy versus the atomic number for different element, you will see that the ionization potential for, let's say, start with hydrogen, suppose if it is here, then ionization potential for helium will be higher value, somewhere here, helium, this is hydrogen. Then the next element in the line is, let's say, lithium, and as I said, across a period it is decreasing. So from hydrogen to lithium, if you have to consider, it will be down, lower value, and this atomic number is increasing in this direction. So I should show it little bit shifted here. This is lithium. Okay, so you go this way, then this way, and then now atomic number should increase further and your ionization potential should increase in this direction, because now you are moving across a period. So ionization potential should increase like this until you reach to the next noble gas, which is neon. Then suddenly from neon you come down to sodium, and sodium should have ionization potential which is less than even lithium. So it should be somewhere here. Okay, with the increased atomic number, suddenly there is a change here. The next element is this one. Then again from sodium to magnesium to aluminum it should increase, and then you will encounter the next noble gas which will be lower than this. Ionization potential of helium is higher than for neon, and then the lower value should be for argon, will be here. Okay, so you can see clearly the trend that I'm trying to set. Then the next element should be this is sodium, then this is next element should be potassium, and likewise it will also go on. So this is the general trend. This represent going down across a period, sorry, group. Let me show this one, helium, little bit away, helium. If you consider moving this way for any group, these are like groups, you can clearly see the atomic ionization potential decreases, right, this way. But if you go this movement above is like moving across a group, moving across a period this way. So these are the movements across the period, and you can see clearly the ionization potential is increasing. Okay, this is a graphical representation here. But if you try to blow up the structure here, right now I'm not showing everything here, but if you try to blow up here, look at the beryllium. Beryllium has atomic number of 4 and boron has atomic number of 5, correct? So the atomic number increases in this direction, ionization potential should have increased, that's what we mean. But your question says the ionization potential of beryllium is higher, that means there is something different here. Ionization potential of beryllium is higher than that of boron. That is what you need to be able to explain, and you can explain it very nicely now because you know the arrangement of electrons or electronic configuration of the two in terms of orbital and all the factors. So let's look at the electronic configuration of the two. So do you see that now, as if we are putting an exceptional case here. So somewhere actually what it should be, if I blow up this one, it will be shown something like this. So beryllium has atomic number, atomic number less, but ionization potential higher. So somewhere when we were moving like this, but then we have gone down a bit to show boron here, and then we are moving further. So beryllium, boron, then you have if I C6, carbon should come next, carbon, then should come next element like this. So this is an exception, it seems exception that this is a lower value than ionization potential is lower value here. If you plot this ionization potential or ionization energy versus atomic number, this is what I am trying to say. If you blow up the structure, this is what you will find here, a little bit kind of kink and then going up. So we have to explain this one. How do you explain this one? The explanation is very simple. Let's look at the electronic configuration of beryllium and boron. Beryllium has atomic number of 4, boron has 5. So you can ignore to write the inner electronic configuration. Let's say if you simply write helium, that's fine. This is 1s2, then the next is 2s, the 2 more electron, and then they will be filled only in this orbital. Here you have to fill 5 electron, so 2 are in helium like electronic configuration 1s2. There is another 2s2 and then one more electron that should go to 2p1. Okay, this is the electronic configuration. So all the answers you will be able to answer, all the questions you will be able to answer by considering only the electronic configuration of the respected element. So look at this electronic configuration and this electronic configuration. Tell me which is more symmetrically filled. This is completely filled. In this electronic configuration, this is completely filled, but in the same shell you have another orbital which is not symmetrically filled. Do you see that? So consider the symmetric filling of the shell. This is more symmetric filling. Symmetric filling of electrons in the given shell. I am writing shell so that you consider all the orbital in the same shell. That's why I have written. In this case, this is less symmetric. I am not saying completely not symmetric at all, but I am saying compared to this, it is less symmetric filling of electron. Filling of electron. Okay, so this is one reason. In fact, this is one reason with which you can also answer the question. Tell me now, which is more stable then? This is more stable electronic configuration. Therefore, more stable electronic configuration. Now I am not commenting here anything, but I am saying this will be less stable than this electronic configuration, number one. So tell me, naturally if you have more stable electronic configuration, it will be difficult to remove the electron then compared to this one. So this is one answer. Basically this is one of the one factor to be considered. Another factor also, whatever difference you have to, you should be accounting. So one difference is this one. Second difference, can you see that the last electron in this orbit, in this shell, is in the s orbital here. Last electron here is in the p orbital. Now you have to consider another effect. Tell me, which orbital is more penetrating? S orbital is more penetrating. So the electron to be removed from the s orbital will be a bit difficult compared to the electron to be removed from the p orbital. So this factor also you can add here. Definitely the stability of electronic configuration is one factor which is about completely filled here. Here it is completely filled, this one, but not this one. Either, see, if you had here P3, that would have added symmetry more, that would have stabilized, but this is P1. Okay, so P1 will not stabilize this electronic configuration as this electronic configuration. So more stable. Second, as I said, s orbital are more deeply penetrated to the nucleus, and therefore electron, therefore it is difficult, or not difficult, therefore removal of electron from such orbital requires more energy than if the electron has to be removed from p orbital or any other orbital, but it is not s. Okay, p orbital. Right now we are comparing s versus p, है ना, s versus p. Which orbital is easily holding the electron, वो more tightly holding the electron. Electron in the s orbital will be more tightly hold than in the p orbital, so it will be easier for the electron to be removed from the p, therefore ionization energy here will be less. So these are the two factors. You can enlist many things, but at least these two factors are easily summarized based on consideration of your let's say the prominent factors for giving the explanation that why beryllium has the higher value of ionization potential than boron. In the similar manner, the another question talks about, let's say, considering the nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen atomic number 7, oxygen atomic number 8. You know that if you go like this further, you will encounter here carbon. After carbon you should encounter, let's say, nitrogen. Okay, the next element should be nitrogen, so this should increase, but then again for oxygen it decreases. What we should have seen, according to the general trend, it should increase always, right, across a group, across a period this should have been the general trend, but then we are seeing these exceptions, but we should not call them as exception because now we know how to explain them. The reasons are there. Okay, it's just that the systems are very complex, it's not straightforward, so we have to accept that complexity of nature. So nitrogen and then oxygen here, and then the next element, if you consider with the atomic number, then it will increase. Let's say for fluorine, atomic number here, fluorine, and then for fluorine after that you have got neon. So this is how you see that there are two dips, then again increase like this. That is what I am trying to show you here. One, we understood this one, the difference, and there is also in the similar manner. I will not discuss this, but if you write down the electronic configuration, very easily you can understand. You always start by looking at the electronic configuration. This is 2s2 and here will be 2p, so 2, 2 and 3, that means 7. Then here if you look at helium, 2s2, 2p4, because the last electron here also is in p, here also, so only one factor is enough to explain this one, the symmetry of the filling of the orbital. So this is, you see, p3, this is completely half filled, symmetrically half filled. This is not as symmetric as this one, the less symmetric I should say. Okay, less symmetric. So naturally you can say that it will be difficult to remove it will be easier to remove the electron from this electronic configuration than this electronic configuration, and that's why the ionization potential, although it should have followed a general trend, but we know that for nitrogen it is a little bit higher than oxygen. Also similar type, and that is comparison between magnesium 12 and aluminium 13, that lies in the next period. Okay, so these are all the cases that you have to be able to consider. If you look at the electronic configuration for this, you can directly write here neon. This is 2s2, sorry 3s2 now, not 2, 3s2, and for this it will be neon 2s2, sorry 3s2, 3p1. So it will be similar explanation as we have just given for boron and beryllium. Okay, here also IP of magnesium is greater than ionization potential of aluminum, which also is against the trend. Okay, so you have to be able to make your reason.